Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for our client training today. My name is Sydney Cohen. I'm a marketing coordinator here at Glassdoor. And on behalf of everyone here, thanks for taking the time to join us. And we're going to share some insights on new grad and millennial hiring. Before we begin, I'd like to share a couple of tips for attendees. You can connect to audio in two ways. As you see here, you can opt to use your computer's microphone and speakers, or you can select use telephone and dial into the webinar using your phone. We're going to mute all lines to avoid background noise, but if you have a question, please go ahead and type them into the question pane. We'll be addressing questions at the end of the webinar, so please stick around for that. You'll receive a copy of the slides and a recording of today's webinar, so look out for that email from our marketing team in the next few days. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the conversation using the hashtag GDChat, and be sure to follow our handle at GD4Employers, spelled GDFOR Employers. And now I'd like to introduce our featured speakers for the day. Andy Stemler from Triage Consulting Group, a past Best Places to Work winner, and our very own Kelly Payne, Director of Customer Success here at Glassdoor. If you'd like to connect with our speakers, their contact information is listed here. And now I'll hand it over to Kelly.
Thank you, Sydney, and thank you everybody for joining today. As we mentioned, my name is Kelly Payne, and I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Glassdoor. The Customer Success team partners with our sales counterparts to work with employers just like yourself on the line to make sure that you're receiving the best value and partnership with our products, but even more than that, making sure that we are helping you with key different initiatives that you have with your business. And I'm really excited today about talking about how to effectively recruit millennials. And so just to get started, millennials are a dominant part of the labor force. According to a research conducted by Gallup, the number of millennials in the labor force has surpassed the number of Gen Xers in the labor force. And this is going to be a trend that's going to continue to grow. As you can see here in this chart we're looking at from the U.S. labor force by generation, you can see that about 20 years ago, the labor force was definitely a little bit different. And as things have evolved and as people have grown out of roles and as people have moved into different levels of their own career, millennials are now taking over much of the workforce. And so how do you as an employer capitalize on that and adjust your recruiting and employer branding strategies to attract this specific demographic? This year alone, millennials will make up about 36% of the workforce in the United States. And by the year 2022, they will make up about 46% of the workforce in the United States. And so it's more important than ever now to prioritize the recruiting strategy for this candidate base. And the reason why it's so important to utilize platforms like Glassdoor and like other social media platforms and other ways in which you can showcase your employer brand and recruiting initiatives, it's because millennials are a digital generation. They're extremely plugged in. And, they're what I like to call kind of the wire generation. They're really the first generation of professionals that the digital world has really ever seen. 71% of these millennials use the internet as their primary source for news, information, and pretty much anything else these days. How they make decisions about where to eat, about where to shop, and now where to work. And so they're turning to the internet to manage everything from finances and bills to watching and listening content and ultimately doing research about what it's like to work at specific organizations. And so it stands to reason that, millennials are going to turn to the internet to make one of the most important decisions they're ever going to make, and that's where to find the right job and company for them. And, 65% of millennials say that they hear about a company that they may or may want to work for through friends or through a platform like Glassdoor. So as far as your recruiting strategy goes, and especially on Glassdoor, keeping millennials top of mind, especially if there's specific types of jobs in which millennials are a great target candidate, it's more important now than ever to get in front of that strategy, because as that last graph just showed, we're really going to continue to see more millennials be those candidates that you're getting in your pipeline. And so how do we capitalize on that? And so, Glassdoor being a platform for a lot of new graduates and millennials, we can definitely suggest and encourage you to use our analytics as well as your own to understand what your demographic is of people that are coming to your Glassdoor brand and looking at jobs on Glassdoor, but throughout all of the places that you're looking to recruit and expose your employer brand. But before you can actually do that, you want to know what new graduates and millennials actually want from a job, what's important to them, and how do you tailor your strategy to that. What we've found in doing a lot of research and working with a lot of employers and individuals in this space is that values is a main driver of decisions for millennials. They want to work in an organization with a mission and a purpose that they stand by. In contrast with generations that probably, that came before them, salary isn't their main driver. Now, yes, it is an important factor, but 64% of millennials would rather make less money, $40,000 a year, versus at a job that they love, versus a much higher salary at a job that they're not stimulated at, or that they think is boring, or that the mission and the purpose isn't something that connects with their personal values. And so, when thinking about your strategy and utilizing Glassdoor and your Why Work For Us section on your enhanced profile, speaking to the values of your company and how that's going to impact the employees that work at your business is going to attract a lot of millennials as well as the rest of the candidate pool, but especially knowing that millennials focus on this piece. And more than half, 56% of these millennials have completely ruled out working for an organization because of the values and standard of conduct that they don't believe, matches their values and what they want from a business. And so, thinking about when you're being asked to state the level of influence of all the different factors that, millennials have on making a decision at work, personal values rank first. And so what can you do as an employer to really get ahead of not only getting the right candidates and those millennials in your pipeline, but taking them from the competition of other companies they're also looking at? Beyond the values piece, and many of you, if you hire millennials or work with millennials, you'll know this, upward mobility and career progression is also something that they're very focused on. So more than things like free lunch and branded backpacks and a gym, which are all fun perks that a lot of companies have nowadays, millennials want to be educated and taught and have the opportunity for upward mobility. They're hungry. They want their career to grow. And 60% of millennials consider growth opportunities to be the main reason they want to go to work. About half of those millennials reported that having regular meetings with their managers were more engaged in their work because they felt that there was someone coaching them and developing their skill set and career. And, I know that, hiring a lot of different people myself and working with a lot of people in the recruitment space, the millennials sometimes can get that reputation for not having as much loyalty to their employer as employers from a previous generation. I know my mother was at her company for 47 years, and that's kind of unheard of nowadays. But, a lot of that has to do with the lack of development at one position. And so sometimes millennials will hop to a different organization or employer because there's a better career opportunity there. And those companies that are obtaining those millennials and attracting them from other organizations are focused on showcasing the values that they have and also showcasing how upward mobility and promoting from within is a core foundation of their organization. And I know that's something that we have here at Glassdoor. we have a customer success division of 50 individuals, and more than half of them have been promoted into different levels of leadership or different levels of seniority in their roles. And it's because we know that people thrive in an environment where they're feeling coached, and that their career and their own professional development is just as big of a focus for the organization as it is for them. And here's some good news, and some news that you may not think when you think about millennials, but you know, a lot of millennials care less about the hype or buzz that surrounds a certain business. So they're not as impressed by the age or the scale of the company. Again, you know, getting back to the root of values and professional development. When it comes to evaluating businesses and developing a perception of them, millennials take into account what the business actually does and how it treats its people rather than how long it's been around. And so if you're an organization that has been around for a really long time, while that's something to be immensely proud of, there's also things that you're going to need to grow and evolve into in terms of your message, especially when it comes to your message on how to recruit the younger generation. You know, 6 out of 10 millennials use quality of products and satisfaction of employees as references when informing opinion about an organization. So key things that are less focused on how long the business has been in place or how big the business is, but more what's the foundation and values and core priorities of how they treat and value their employees within their organization. And so when talking about how companies attract top grads, we wanted to show a job description from a partner of ours, Sweet Labs. And what I like about this job description is that it's really focused on the you, and that you being that millennial, that candidate, that job seeker. How does this job description perfectly match with what you want in your role and what you can bring to the table? And as funny as this may sound, you know, this is the generation that put the word selfie in the dictionary. And it's because they're focused on themselves and their own growth and their own development. And so not just selling your organization, but selling what's in it for that millennial job seeker is what I think is so great about this Sweet Labs software engineer position that we're showing you right now. And so how do you land the right grads and lower that cost for hire in the same time? You know, part of that is being real, being transparent, you know, being upfront and honest to those millennials and to any job seeker and any potential candidate or hire for your organization and your current employees. Because transparency inspires trust. And it inspires the belief that those employees or future employees and millennials and job seekers know that the organization is upfront and honest and values their opinion. You know, one of the things that I always say too is, you know, you don't want to over-embellish that entry-level position because a lot of millennials, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an organization that they believe in, an organization that takes care of their people and values the employee, but also will give them the opportunity to start from the ground up and learn and being truthful about those roles and responsibilities within the description, the mission, and the culture. It's going to pay off in things like retention rate, because that millennial who's going to take that associate account manager job is going to also not only know that that's an opportunity for them to learn the business and values of which they believe in, because you're being transparent and communicating it to them. But you're also talking about the fact that there's upward mobility, so they know that there's going to be growth and an opportunity to grow and build a foundation there. And remember what I had said a couple slides ago is that, you know, a millennial would rather make less at a company but know that there's good values and growth. And so focusing on that transparent truth while also giving them a picture of what the future holds will allow you to really keep those people happy, engaged, and productive in your environment. And using a platform like Glassdoor and the profile, and you know, if you have an enhanced profile and you have those 5 Why Work For Us sections, and you are consistently trying to target millennials, you know, using one of those sections to specifically speak to how a millennial generation at your employer or organization is a great place for them to be. It's going to help you win that talent a lot quicker than your peers and competitors. And so just continuing about that theme of being truthful about the role, you know, using that Why Work For Us section, making sure that it accurately describes the environment, it's going to make for better fit candidates applying to your jobs. It gives that candidate that may be a poor fit for your company an opportunity to self-select themselves out because they've gotten that information. One of the things that I always say is photos is a big place where job seekers spend a ton of time. You want to let them know that not only do you work hard, but you play hard too. That's what we do here at Glassdoor, and you know, we've got a great fun culture that encourages upward mobility, value on its people, and fun, and we showcase that on our profile, and it helps us attract the candidates that are focused on working hard and playing hard too. And you know, we obviously have to talk about the reviews piece. You know, 61% of job seekers look for reviews and ratings before making a decision to apply for a job. So if you have reviews, you need to be responding and engaging on those reviews. If you don't have reviews, that's okay. You should encourage your employees to write reviews. Good times to invite, you know, employees to write reviews are during onboarding, you know, after promotions, during quarterly reviews. Anytime you speak to the company as a whole, it's really important to remember that you're asking your employee base to tell you how they're feeling. I always call the Glassdoor the suggestion box that most companies wish they had. Utilize it, look at the data, respond to those reviews, engage with your audience, because that's not only letting your current employees know that you care about them, but it's letting those millennials that are focused on values show that the company cares about a lot of things. And that's going to go a long way with the future generation of your employment base. And, you know, suggesting becoming an open company. One of the things that millennials want is transparency. And in your Glassdoor Employer Center, you'll find steps that you need to become an open company, making sure you fulfill all of those requirements. This will allow you to tell job seekers that you're a transparent and committed organization. And so, you know, part of that is really joining the conversation. So getting social with talking about your values, talking about how you want to recruit millennials. Like I said, the millennial generation is a digital generation. They are more social than any other generation. So sharing those jobs on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, using Snapchat to show what it's like to work at your company in real time. You know, knowing where your ideal candidates are spending their time is also important too. 71% of Snapchat users are between the ages of 18 and 34, whereas only 34% of LinkedIn users are in that same age bracket. And so as you're tailoring your recruiting strategies, you want to make sure that you're putting the right jobs on the right platforms. And that's also an opportunity to share your company story, right? Displaying new ways to use your products on Instagram. Sharing industry news and press releases on Twitter and Facebook. Showing that your audience, you know, your millennial audience, your current employees, and even past employees, you know, what it's like to work at the organization today, real time, and using tools like Snapchat are a really great and unique way to get to that millennial generation. And all of this, you know, is really essential, but the most essential piece is making sure that you connect these social media tools on a platform like Glassdoor, because millennials and job seekers come to Glassdoor throughout many different stages of their interview and research and hiring process. And so the fact that we offer things like a Hootsuite integration allows you to utilize all of this content on your Glassdoor profile as well as on those platforms. And so you're kind of killing 1,000 different birds with one stone and hitting a ton of different of that millennial audience as well as the rest of the job seeker space. And with that, I am going to hand the rest of this webinar off to Andy, who's going to speak about his organization, Triage Consulting Group. Andy?
Great, Kelly. Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You talked about so many great themes on a macro level, and I think that they're going to segue really nicely as we kind of delve into some more macro level of things when we're talking about Triage Consulting Group. So if we can move to the next slide. Quick introductions. Again, my name is Andy Stemmeyer. I'm a principal with Triage Consulting Group, a healthcare financial consulting firm based in San Francisco. I've been here for about 17 years, and early on in the company, I got involved in some campus-level recruiting and just continued along in our program until now, again, where I'm responsible for all of our college recruiting efforts. Just to give some context to our hiring model, again, we're a healthcare financial consulting firm. We have a couple of different offices, one in San Francisco and one in Atlanta. Between the two offices, we're about 550 employees. And this year, we will hire somewhere between 150 and probably 180 new hires. We saw the statistics earlier about the percentage of the overall labor force being made up of millennials. As far as Triage is concerned, we're probably somewhere between 90 to probably 95% millennials in our company. So certainly a group that we're very, very cognizant of and very excited to be working with. Proud to say certainly that Triage has been recognized by Glassdoor as a great place to work. Also, we've received some recognition from Vault as one of the top 50 consulting firms, and also Modern Healthcare as well. We have the open company designation on Glassdoor, as Kelly had talked about before. So without further ado, let's get a little bit into some of the techniques that we use to hire millennials, and also when we're talking specifically about campus recruiting. So like anything else, one of the biggest things when we're talking about recruiting is relationships. And when we're talking about campuses, making core relationships with folks on campus is going to be huge. You know, Triage Consulting, we're very fortunate to be located in California and specifically the Bay Area. And I know that companies with low headcount or low resources, they need to spend those resources wisely. Currently in San Francisco, I think we're connected with about 7 core campuses. Atlanta, I think, has 5. But it wasn't always that way. Triage started out very small, 1 campus, 2 campuses, and started to build things up from there as we continue to build our relationships and build our need to continue to address a higher and higher headcount recruiting total year to year. Naturally, first and foremost, when we step foot on a campus, making good contacts with the career centers is key. Beyond that, then making sure that we also can somehow tie into some student groups that might relate to our industry. We're involved in healthcare, so maybe there's a business fraternity on campus that might make sense to connect with, or maybe there's a professional healthcare organization that might make sense there. Greek organizations have also been very good to us over the years. Again, with campus recruiting, it's all about building momentum within certain pockets of the campus and then hoping that you can continue to parlay that momentum from year to year to year. Taking advantage in any extracurricular speaking engagements has also been great for us. Again, with relationships, we've seen professors that have latched on and really appreciated what we're all about and allowed us to speak in front of their classes for 5, 10, 15 minutes. That time has been fantastic. And then also our physical presence on campus. Once we've made these relationships, some ways to continually push out our brand and again continue the momentum that we have on the campuses is to get out to those big career fairs naturally and get those tables going and get out there face to face. Very, very important that we use our consultants in our recruiting engagement. So we only have 1 full-time recruiting coordinator within the entire company. So we certainly like to use our staff to get out there and help us recruit. It's really a win-win because they really love to help the company in more ways than the day-to-day work and feel like they're a part of the business and contributing to the business as a whole. But also, who better to represent the company, especially to young millennials and near college graduates, than those who are actually doing the work that they'd be doing the day-to-day. I mean, it'd be nice for me to show up to a career fair, but honestly, the college students could care less about what I do on a day-to-day basis. They're much more in tune, of course, with the younger folks in our company and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Information sessions as well. Those are going to be more intimate. Those usually follow the career fair maybe a week later, where we advertise on campus and get more of a group of maybe 40, 50 students there to ourselves. And then we can really be transparent, as Kelly was talking about, get into all the nitty-gritty of Triage, of what the job entails, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Next slide. Internships are also an excellent way to continue to ingrain yourself into a campus. You know, there's a lot of benefits to internship programs. And just from a scale standpoint, we have one intern from each of our core campuses. So in our San Francisco office, as I'd mentioned, we go to 7 campuses, and each of those campuses has one intern each summer here. It's an awesome opportunity, again, to have really, really talented individuals join your company for the summer. So they can definitely give us a hand while they're here. They also will increase awareness of what it's like to work for our company. And these students have been outstanding ambassadors for us when they go back on campus. And then who knows, ultimately when their summer ends, hopefully everything works out and they get a full-time offer from Triage to come back and work. So the way that we leverage these folks when they're back on campus is they'll come and join us at career fairs and speak on behalf of Triage, and they'll also come to our information sessions and talk about what a great summer they had at Triage and what it's like to work there. Very, very powerful mode of recruiting them. All right, next slide. Great, so Kelly talked a little bit about engaging employees, certainly something very, very important once we get them in the door, and I think we can even work on our engagement with recruits as they come along the way. So as she'd mentioned, you know, they're the least engaged generation, so 29% are engaged at work versus 33% of baby boomers, 45% of traditionalists. That one statistic is staggering, the $40,000 versus $100,000. I'm not sure if that holds true in San Francisco with the current rents, but maybe it is. And certainly, you know, engaging millennials, celebrating wins is huge. Every little thing, even if it's a daily goal, a weekly goal, taking the team out to coffee, to frozen yogurt, whatever it is, the little things really add up for these guys. Volunteer days and social responsibility programs are very, very near and dear to their hearts. You know, something that I think Triage has been involved with from the start of our company back in the mid-90s, but certainly something that's played very well throughout those years and with millennials these days. Something that also has helped us out is we offer 16 hours of volunteer time off per year, which is very, very powerful in our recruiting process, something that's really thought of highly. Quarterly team offsites, again, those are just celebrating wins, but on a higher level. And then, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Team happy hours have always been great for us, and probably for most companies. Let's just make sure that those interns are 21 years old. Great, next slide. And then culture is also something that we've been very, very proud of, and making sure that, you know, the folks that we're hiring are a cultural fit for Triage, but making sure that we arm them with as much information as possible so that they can evaluate us and make sure they're a cultural fit for us as well. You know, we talk about cultural fit around here. It's not, you know, is Jimmy cool, or is Janie, you know, look like everyone else around Triage, but rather, you know, do they embody the guiding principles of Triage, you know, and we have 5 guiding principles: client service, knowledge, relationships, fun, and balance. And we make sure that the individuals that come through our recruiting process, whether it's our initial touch point with them at a career fair or ultimately their final round interview here in our San Francisco office, that we're making sure that we're continuing to evaluate them on that sort of organizational fit, and that they're a match with our guiding principles here. Something very, very, very important. And we also want to make sure that we're displaying that on our website, you know, on our Glassdoor profile, in our why to work for us section. All those things are key. And one thing that Kelly touched on is the power of the reviews on Glassdoor. And please know that reviews on Glassdoor are something that we keep a very, very close eye on. The company reviews are outstanding, and we periodically, every 6 to 12 months, will compile the prior 6 to 12 months worth of company reviews and make sure that we're staying on top of the positive points that our employees are posting on Glassdoor, but also the constructive pieces of criticism that they're giving us there as well. We want to make sure that our recruiters are armed with that information so that we can address any concerns that candidates might have about Triage after they read our reviews on Glassdoor, because 99.9% of every candidate now that is coming to talk to us has scoured Glassdoor from top to bottom. Next slide, please. Final thing, certainly instant gratification. Millennials, and rightfully so, they want to feel like they're being taken care of, you know. They want a personal touch to the recruiting process, and hopefully we're doing a good job with that. Fast response rates, and making sure that we're trying the best we can to drive down our low time to hire. So from the time that they meet with us to the time that they ultimately do or do not get an offer, again, making sure that we're compressing that as much as we can. And if we do feel like it's for whatever reason, maybe it's an internal logistics issue, that we're communicating with them appropriately and explaining why. Now more than ever at this time of the year in the spring, these guys are at the end of their rope. They're about to graduate. They're interviewing with companies, and it's a little bit of an early bird gets the worm sort of time right now. If these candidates are getting offers, they're taking them before you even have the chance to have them in for a first-round interview. So being quick and being decisive is huge, especially at this time of year when it comes to hiring millennials. And with that, I think that concludes my portion of the presentation. And if we have any extra time here, I think we're fine to open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, we're actually running short on time today, but we have collected the questions, and we will be sure to get those questions to both Andy and Kelly and follow up with those of you who did ask questions. Thank you again for everyone who joined the webinar today. I'm just going to launch a poll for those of you still on the line.
And this is Kelly. I wanted to let everybody know that has been asking questions. To reiterate what Sydney said, Andy and I will connect and make sure that we get answers to your very great questions. Beyond that, you will be getting a copy of the presentation, the slide deck, as well as the recording. That'll be to all of you that registered within the next 24 to 48 hours. And if you don't get that for any reason, you feel free to email me directly. My email is just kelly.payne, P-A-Y-N-E, @glassdoor.com.
Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.